So this is the ASUS Zephyrus M16, and before I get into the actual review, Best Buy was kind enough to sponsor this portion of the video. They're having a crazy biggest deals event right now, and there's some fantastic laptops that are on sale. The first one is the HP Envy X360 2-in-1. I just reviewed this not too long ago, and it comes stacked with some great specs. The AMD Ryzen 7 5700U with 8 gigabytes of RAM, a 512 gigabyte Nvme Ssd, and it's 15 inches. Here's the thing about this laptop. You can upgrade it. So if the RAM is not enough or you want more storage, you can open it up and upgrade to something bigger. It was retailing for $979, but right now you can pick it up for $829. If that's too big for you, there's also the HP Envy 13 2-in-1, but this is an Intel processor. It's the i7, so it's the faster one, and it comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM, a 512 gigabyte Nvme Ssd. It was $1,019, but you can now get it for $839. Now this one's interesting because this laptop just came out on the market. The Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360 13-inch was retailing for $1,400, but right now you can pick it up for $1,250. This thing has a gorgeous OLED or AMOLED display that your eyes will absolutely cry in tears of joy. It's just a beautiful display to look at. Now, for those of you who are in school or thinking about going back to school sometime in the summer or in the future, there's Chromebooks that are on sale too, specifically the Acer Chromebook Spin 7. This is also a 2-in-1, but it comes with such great specs, like a 2K screen. It's 3x2, which is perfect for productivity, and it's using an i5 10th gen processor, which is really fast for a Chromebook. Now this was retailing for $629, but right now you can pick it up for $529. And I'll place links to all these deals in the description down below. Now, I've already done an unboxing of this laptop, so all the little things that I missed here you can find over there. But hands down, this is one of my favorite laptops of 2021 so far. The only thing I don't like is the name, like M16, right? Imagine going to class and telling your teacher you have an M16 in your bag. They're probably gonna call the cops on you. But I do love this design, right? It's clean, it's minimalistic, it has a little bit of character. They have this CNC metal chassis on the top with drilled holes and a reflective piece of paper underneath that, depending on the angle the laptop is in, you get different color effects. The cool thing though is that this is 4.2 pounds, making it a very light 16-inch laptop. That's crazy to think about considering how much performance is inside of this thing. In terms of I/O, it's a love-hate relationship. I would have loved the power connector to be at the back of the device, but there's tons of I/O to connect your stuff. HDMI, Ethernet jack, USB, 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, audio jack. And then on the right-hand side, you have your Kensington lock, micro SD card slot, and another USB port. You can open up this laptop with one hand, which I know like a few people out there care about, and this is a bit different than the G14. The deck of the keyboard is using a rubberized texture. It does pick up a lot of lint, as you can see here on the base, but I prefer it because my wrists feel comfortable. Like, this is a much more comfortable typing experience than, let's say, the standard base you'd find on the G14. A lot of the stuff is similar here, like this key travel is superb. I love typing on this keyboard. There's a few macro keys at the top to access your volume and ASUS Armory Crate a bit faster. And there's even a fingerprint, right? Like this power button here also acts as a fingerprint scanner to log you in. Now this keyboard is RGB and you can change the colors to whatever you want, but I did notice one weird thing. When you're not using the laptop and you don't close the display, the RGB switches off for a while, then it comes back on and it flashes every so often. Even though I have this set to static in the Armory Crate, it just randomly flashes, which I found super weird. The other thing is because the hard drive and battery buttons are at the back of the base, whenever you're using the computer, depending on the angle of the screen, you'll see a bit of reflection at the bottom of the taskbar. Now, some of you might just get used to it, but I know some of you people out there who have OCD, this might drive you a bit crazy. As for sticker placement, I'm gonna give it to NVIDIA. Like, their sticker is nice and straight. The NVIDIA guy showed up to work, happy to be alive, and he did his job. The Intel guy is not getting paid enough. He's like, I don't care, I'm throwing this on crooked, leave me alone. Touchpad though, huge, much bigger than the previous version on last year's model. So much space for your fingers to move around, really accurate, a nice click to it, overall a great experience. There was also one question that came up a lot during my live stream. How does the heat vent? And usually with most laptops, the air comes in through the top and then it gets vented out through the bottom. But because ASUS uses an ergo hinge, the air is coming through the bottom and it's being vented out through the sides of the laptop and the back of the keyboard deck. And there was a lot of concern about hot air blowing onto the screen of your laptop. Most of that air is actually blowing on the bottom bezel. I don't think it's a big deal, but I know some of you have concern over the long run. I really wish I had a proper answer for you, but it's one of those things we're gonna have to just keep an eye on over time. As for the display, this thing is what I'm all about. Like, this 16:10 QHD panel is absolutely gorgeous. Like, great color accuracy, great color gamut. It's bright, it's matte, so you don't get those crazy reflections from the sun or from other objects that are inside of the room. And because it's 165 Hertz, it also has a 3 millisecond response time. Like, this is the perfect display for someone who likes to do content creation, but also truly loves to game. Now, unlike the G15, you get a webcam, okay? It's not the best webcam, it's not gonna impress your friends or make you look better, but it's there in case you need one. Now, this display can go 180 degrees, but there's also 6 speakers to work with. You have 2 on the bottom, then 4 on the top, and the sound quality out of this thing is really good. It's not like MacBook Pro 13 good, but for a gaming laptop, it's definitely some of the better speakers that are currently out there. Performance is incredible. You know, like, this review unit has an Intel i9-11900H with 16 gigabytes of RAM, an RTX 3060 that can boost up to 95 watts. It has a 1 terabyte Nvme Ssd, and of course, that 16-inch beautiful QHD display. Now, if you don't want a 3060, you can get this with a 3050 Ti or go all the way up to a 3070, but there's tons of options to choose from. I don't suggest getting the i9 version of this. Maybe just stick with the i7, just because there's obviously thermal constraints with a laptop this thin, but performance is still great. In terms of synthetics, this thing beat out everything I've tested, at least in Cinebench R23, and even the single core clock speeds are great too. If you're a developer and you're compiling code, this is one of the fastest laptops I've tested. It was able to crunch through Mozilla Firefox in just 24 minutes. But I feel like the great place to be with this is content creation and gaming, because in Adobe Premiere Pro, it may not beat out some of the other laptops I've tested recently, but it comes fairly high. And that's probably only because this could use a little bit more RAM and a more beefier GPU when you compare to some of those other ones on the list. Now, gamers, okay, you're buying this for gaming. There's a 3060 inside of here. This can handle QHD gaming comfortably. I don't think it screams through it, but it can handle it. I still think the sweet spot for a 3060 is 1920 by 1200. That's where this laptop truly has the higher frames per second, and it gets closer and closer to that 165 Hertz refresh rate that you can truly take advantage of. Heat's interesting because this laptop can run really cool depending on the profile you choose, but I predominantly use this in turbo mode because I want maximum performance. And if you leave it on turbo mode, it will get up to 96 or 97 degrees Celsius. It will use about 78 to 80 watts of the CPU, and with that, you get really nice high clock speeds. Eventually, it will start to power throttle, and the CPU will only be using 45 watts, and of course, you'll get much cooler temperatures. But if that makes you nervous, or you don't feel comfortable enough of consistently pushing your laptop that hot, there's different profiles to choose from that will keep this laptop cooler depending on the profile you use. Now, it can get loud in turbo mode. It goes up to 60 decibels, which is very loud for a laptop, but again, if that's too loud, change the profile and you can have a quieter experience. Looking inside, you can see there's a lot of copper being used to cool the CPU and GPU. Not everything is upgradable. For example, some of the RAM is soldered onto the motherboard. Some units have 16 gigabytes of RAM soldered on, depending on the configuration you get, and others only have 8. Mine is only 8 gigabytes of RAM soldered on, plus they put in an extra 8 gigabyte DIMM to give it a total of 16. So in theory, the most RAM I can have inside of here is 40, or if you buy the one with 16 gigabytes of RAM soldered on, you can go up to 48. There are 2 spots for Nvme Ssds. This one's empty, but this one's populated, and of course it gets your standard read and write speeds. There's a swappable Wi-Fi card, which is Wi-Fi 6E, and a really big 90-watt battery. And I only got about 5 hours and 31 minutes using this thing, which is, you know, pretty good considering this is a gaming laptop. Now, some of you asked me in my live stream if this thing has a mux switch, and the answer is no. There's no mux switch present with this laptop. So here's the thing. The ASUS Zephyrus M16 is obviously not perfect. A bit of sacrificing here and there had to be made in order to get where we are today. But I think ASUS made the right sacrifices, right? Like, yes, the ports are all the way at the front. I would have loved them back further or on the back of the laptop, but the cooling design doesn't allow it. And I would have loved the little LED indicators not to reflect into the display, and I would have loved the ability to spec this with 64 gigabytes. But here's the thing. 48 or 40 is still more than plenty for most people, so it's a good compromise to have. The other thing of concern is that heat coming out of the back of the deck and hitting the bottom of the monitor. I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know what to tell you. It's one of those things we have to see how it plays out over the long term. But based on my gut feeling, I think everything's gonna be okay. As of right now, this is one of the best laptops I've reviewed in 2021, and I have no problems recommending it. If you have any more questions about this guy, let me know in the comment section down below. And for those of you that have a G15, do you feel jealous about the M16? Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.